Hi, it's Lisa Rubel from Quilty Zest, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the prep work for a Sunset Vibes or Postcard Views workshop. These are the quilts behind me. On top are the 3 Sunset Vibes quilts, and on the bottom are the 3 Postcard Views quilts. These are raw edge applique quilts that I've designed with my 2 fabric lines with Benertex, Nature Unfiltered on the top, and Find Your Way on the bottom. And this is what the patterns look like for these. They come with full-size templates for the quilts, and I'm going to talk about what you need to do with those templates before a workshop or a class with me. So let's take a peek at Postcard Views. It's the same technique for both sets of templates. The templates are just printed on slightly different sizes of paper. So if we grab the first page from the Postcard Views, you'll see up in the corner it's got little drawings of the 3, and then you'll see a bunch of templates like this. And there are 8 pages of templates for this, and you'll need to trace them all onto the paper side of Fusible Web. So I use ThermoWeb's Heat and Bond Light Sewable Fusible Adhesive. This is just my personal preference, but any fusible web with a paper backing will work just fine. So what you're going to do is take your fusible web, and I have it on a roll, and so I just have a large piece of it, and just lay it down on top of your pieces, on top of your first template page, and you'll be able to see through it. So you can see as I press it close, you can see the shapes through it. You can also take it to a window or use a light box, but you're going to, with the fusible on top, you're going to trace over each of the shapes that you see on the page. And some of them, like the sun rays here, it tells you to cut a certain amount, and some of them are just single shapes, like this inner sun and outer sun here. You'll also see some dotted line shapes on the page, and that's just for placement. You don't necessarily have to transfer that over to your fusible web. That's for when we put it together. It's just a visual aid. So you're going to trace on the outer solid line of each of the shapes, and then I highly, highly recommend labeling the shapes. Each of the templates has both a name of the shape. Here it says here it says Outer Sunset, Cut 1, Fabric F. And I also have a DS, which shows that it is for the Dune Sunset quilt, which is right here. So if you trace those things, both the initials for which quilt it's for, the name of the piece, and then which fabric you're cutting it from. And even if you're not doing my fabric, but just so you know, this goes with F fabric, whatever your F fabric might be. But if you trace all of those things after you've cut the shapes out, it will be a lot easier to match them up to the right fabrics. And so after you have all of those shapes traced out onto the fusible web, and it will take a lot of fusible web. With 8 pages of templates, there are a lot of them. What you're going to do next is cut out those shapes from the fusible web, but loosely around the outside edge of your shape. And so when you do that, here's an example. This is it's fabric M from MM, which is Moonlight Mountain, which is this project right here. So I've got that labeled, and you can see I've got the circle shape of the moon, and then I cut out around the shape. That cutting doesn't need to be perfect. You're just getting it out of your big piece of fusible. And this is what we'll be fusing to the fabric. So when you have all of your shapes cut out like this, the next thing to do is to fuse them to the correct fabric. So here's an example where you can see all of my sun rays from Dune Sunset, and I fused them onto the wrong side of my H fabric. And you'll notice with these, I didn't cut out each shape individually because they're all going to the same fabric. So I cut out a chunk around all of those fused shapes and fused it onto this. And so you'll do that with each of your shapes. And what I recommend is if you take all of the pieces for, like in my case, this yellow, this maize fabric in yellow is my fabric H. And so I found all of my cutout H pieces and fused them all to a larger piece of the yellow. And that's just a more efficient way, because you can fuse down all of the pieces that go with a particular fabric instead of moving the fabric away and bringing it back each time you find another template. So if you sort your templates by which fabric they go to, that will make that fusing process a lot more efficient. And for the workshop, I just ask that you come to the workshop with one of the 3 from your set, whether it's Sunset Vibes or Postcard Views, but one of the 3 quilts with all your pieces prepared, because the tracing and cutting takes a fair amount of time. And if you have all of that done, then in the class we can focus on the assembly and talk about the tips and tricks for that and get into the machine quilting, rather than spending our time together doing the tracing and the cutting. And when you get to this point where you have them all fused on, then it's going to be time to cut. And at this point, you're going to cut out the shapes on the lines that you trace. This is going to be, the exact shapes that you see on this project. So my sun rays here are what you see right here on my sun. And so you're going to cut all of the shapes out on those exact lines. And then you will be ready to go for the class, and we can focus on putting the quilts together. So I wanted to talk about some of the larger templates. I have all of the templates printed onto larger pieces of paper, but to keep the cost down, I did pages that are 11 inches tall rather than one huge page. And so there are a couple where you'll need to join the pages together, and that's what I wanted to talk about. For Postcard Views, where we're dealing with that is for the 2 mountains in the Mountain Moonlight wall hanging. And so you're going to need 2 pages to work together, which is page 6 and page 3. And what you want to do is tape these 2 paper template pages together. There is a wider dotted line at the top here, and then a matching line at the bottom here. And both of these templates say on them that they are the Mountain 1 and Mountain 2 templates, and you're supposed to combine them together. So what you're going to want to do is take some Scotch tape, and you can see the dotted line at the bottom. What I'm going to do is just fold the edge of that up so that the dotted line is at the edge of my paper, and it will make joining them easier. So I've got it there. And then I'm going to match the lines. And tape it in place. And like I said, it's just two that we're doing this for. And here is where I did it for the mountain. So I've got the 2 pages joined together just like the template says. So then when you're tracing the mountain shape onto fusible web, you want to trace the entire mountain 1 onto the fusible web, covering both of the template pages, and then the same for the second mountain right here. So you're going to trace this shape that goes all the way down onto here to the bottom and up the side. So your mountain template pages will be one full template that's being shown to you on 2 different pages, if that makes sense. And then for Sunset Vibes, for the Arbor Sunset up here behind me, it's the same thing. We've got half of the tree, other way around, half of the tree on one page and then the tree trunk on the other. So what you're going to want to do is fold the edge up and join those 2 pages together where the lines meet up to make your full tree design before you trace the tree trunk with all of the branches onto fusible web. So you'll end up with one full tree shape traced onto the fusible web, not 2 separate pieces. So hopefully that makes sense. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to help you. And if you're seeing this video and you have not purchased either the Sunset Vibes or the Postcard Views patterns and you'd like to, head over to my website, quiltyzest.com, and visit the shop area and you'll be able to find both of these. They're really fun patterns just made with fusible raw edge applique, And once you get the tracing of all the templates done and the fusing to the fabric and the cutting out, assembling each of these goes together super quickly. So it's a lot of fun to make and really satisfying to watch them to come together, and they're great to hang up in your house or to give as a gift.